The title of what I'd be about to say is Nine Strategies for Building Hope. Um, and start with the first one, to realize that not all the kids believe they'll have a future. The only plans my parents made for my future had nothing to do with college, wedding, or even work. They just bought a funeral plot next to theirs. And the assumption was that my three sisters would have a home and a family and go on to have a life, and I was going to die young and alone. And it was my father who was sick, not me. But in the dysfunction, we all sort of got confused about who was dying, I guess. But I think that that's my family's unique dysfunction. But I think for a lot of people who grow up in neighborhoods surrounded by people dying young from violence, accidents, and disease, or disappearing with incarceration, there's a feeling that I can't count on being 60, I can't count on being 40, I can't count on being 20. And one of the most striking things that any of the Bravehearts said in the early days when we were organizing it, one of the young men was like 18. And he said, I've been in the system my whole life. I've had a parade of caseworkers and counselors, and no one ever asked me today what I wanted to be till when I grew up. I never thought about it today because literally no one ever thought to ask me the question. And so one of the most powerful things you can do is just like encourage youth to dream or have a vision, or just to think about what if there is a future. And I think that the second thing is, part of why that can happen, when my youngest daughter was very young, I was putting her to bed one night and we went through the months of the year and all the happy things she could look forward to each month. That like October was trick-or-treating, and November was Thanksgiving feast and the family gathers, and December is Christmas and Hanukkah, and January is New Year's with your cousin in Philadelphia, and there's Passover in Florida, and there's a vacation and your birthday and all kinds of things. And it gave like a happy rhythm of life where every month there was something to look forward to. And I think a lot of kids don't have that happy rhythm. And what they see instead is an endless wall of gray. And so the second thing that the people in your organizations can do is to try to help youth have celebrations, happy events to mark those times. But I think also to know about them in advance. Like, I think it's really powerful to have something you can look forward to for spring, and something for summer, and something for fall, and something for winter, where it's not just endlessly swept in a torrent that makes you feel like you're drowning, but instead predictable things you can count on and look forward to. So happy rhythms. I think the third is like just remembering that there's light, because I think sometimes you're so surrounded by darkness, it's like you forget that life exists. Or if there's so much violence and cruelty around you, it's like that's the only tune you recognize, and you're hyper attuned to it, and that's all you see. So I think the third thing is like reminding young people that there is light. But you got to be careful, because if you deny that the darkness exists, they're just going to think you're a fool, because they may know more than you do about the darkness in the world and the cruelty around. And you also have to be careful to communicate that there's light for people who are like them, because it's easy to believe that life is better for rich people, white people, TV people, whatever it is. It's believing that there's actually a possibility of a better future for you that is the crucial element in hope. A fourth thing I think is kind of highlighting moral heroes. One day on the news, there was someone doing the right thing. He was throwing away his whole Army legal career to help someone in Guantanamo Bay by suing the president of the United States, going to the Supreme Court and winning. And I called the daughters in. It's like, quick, quick, quick. The news has a moral hero on. And normally it's bigots, thieves, and fools. And here's somebody you could actually like be proud of, that actually see that. So I think highlighting the moral heroes in the universe. And the last five things all have to do with self-efficacy. Because even if you believe there's a future and it could be good, a lot of people feel that there's nothing they can do to shape their own future. And these five things are ways you can help that. One of the main ones, I think, is to always be careful in how you speak to and about a young person, to stress that they're not victims but survivors, because you could take the same set of life facts and told one way, terrible things have happened to you, you're a helpless victim and you just feel nothing but despair. And the other way is, terrible things have happened to you and you must be tough as nails because you walked out the other side, and it's astonishing what you've been able to stand up and walk through. And that's a whole different way of feeling about the whole life ahead. And none of the facts change. It's just the narrative and the way that you present it. So that's important. I think the sixth thing is to give them to build a sense of efficacy by giving them the voices and choices that Jessica was talking about, to let them choose part of what they do, part of what they services they get, all the parts of their life that you can, where they're not just helpless recipients, but active navigators in their own life. The seventh thing I think is about creating ways where there's goals and rewards that are achievable, like a sense of I can actually dare to want something. Because sometimes it's scary to want something because you'll feel like it's being snatched away. But to have the experience of wanting something, working for it, and succeeding at it and getting it in a small way, in the bigger ways, in the longer term ways, a whole succession, I think those are the kinds of experiences that help you develop a sense of hope. The eighth is, I think, coping strategies for the darkness. It's like to teach kids, here's what you do if you're being bullied, or if your teacher's being unfair, or if you don't understand the homework, or if a cop pulls you over and you've done nothing wrong. Just acknowledge that there's darkness, but you're not helpless. And the ninth, maybe the most powerful of all, years ago, when we were working on the Brave Hearts, I said that when you grow up miserable and you look back on your life, you wish you could smash your fist through the window of time and go back and rewrite the history of those you love and those and of yourself, but you can't. And the best you can do is change the life of those who are around you now. And I think that's the power of the Bravehearts. It's like you can't go back and change your the parenting that you got, or the system and supports that you got, but you can change the system and supports that other people have. And there's something powerful and healing about that. It's like you, when, one more story. When I was a young kid, my mother was taking care of my older sister's baby, and he was sitting on the floor in a diaper screaming, and my mother was sitting there staring at him helpless, and I was on the other side staring at him helpless, and we both felt helpless. And I was just feeling like rage. And I think, though it's murky, I think I got beaten for crying. And it was really hard for me to have people open up and show weakness at all, because it was like a demand I couldn't meet. And then when I had my own daughters and learned how to comfort and cuddle them, it was not just them that was getting nurtured and healed, it was me as well. And so that may be the most powerful, things like the Brave Hearts may be the most powerful thing you can do to build hope in a better future. The end.